thanks for giving me this exclusive farewell interview.
It was between you and 60 Minutes.
That means
no,
a
I'm
lot.
honored to be here. My daughter is going to interview me, so don't be too hard on me.
I'll try my best.
Okay.
Well, here we are. It's the last week of shows for you on Wheel. How do you feel?
It's surprisingly okay. You know, this was announced a long time ago, almost a year ago, so I've had time to sort of get used to it, and it's been a little bit wistful and all that, but I'm enjoying it and taking it all in and reflecting on a great run.
Well, we'll do a lot of reflecting, but first, let's go back before Wheel in your early days. And I know some of this just from family stories, but what were you like as a child?
Yeah, I was kind of lighthearted and made jokes and all that kind of thing. I wasn't a class clown because that implies that I was disruptive or disrespectful. I have one yearbook existing from my high school days, and I looked at the inscription, and the word that kept coming up was witty. Not funny or anything, but witty. Apparently I was a witty kid.
Well, yeah, that still is a word you get a lot.
No, it's true, and I like the word actually. It's a little old-fashioned, but I like it.
So when you were a kid, did you have dreams of being a game show host?
No, but I did, and I don't know why, but I always wanted to be in broadcasting in some way.
Your parents and my grandparents, they weren't in this industry, but you did have a family member that you've told me has influenced you.
Yeah, I had a great aunt. Well, she was a great aunt, but she was also my great aunt.
Right, yeah.
And she was the only one who had anything to do with sort of public life. She was a horse racing handicap for a Chicago newspaper. She was the lady in the mask, and she wore like a Lone Ranger mask. And she loved radio and television, and when I'd be at her house, I was there often because she lived down the street from us. Instead of watching kids' television or listening to music, she had radio talk shows on with broadcasters. But they really influenced me, and I kind of grew up in that environment.
Who were some of those early broadcasting influences?
Before Jay Leno and before Johnny Carson, there was a guy named Jack Parr who did The Tonight Show for 5 years in the 60s, and for some reason I really took to this guy. I would sneak out of bed at night and turn on the television and watch, and my father would come in and yell at me, "Get," you know. And I came to know him later in my life, and he became a real booster and friend, and that was great for me.
So you have these dreams of going into broadcasting. What were your first steps professionally in that direction?
My first broadcasting job at this college I went to, they had a good broadcasting department. They had working Chicago broadcasters there, and one of them had a friend who was a general manager of a little radio station I had never heard of in Chicago. Turned out it was a 250-watt foreign language radio station, and from midnight to 6, I did the news for 5 minutes every hour in English. He played Spanish music, he did Spanish commercials, he spoke Spanish. Sometimes he would leave with his girlfriend in the middle of the night, and I would do the rest of the show, and I would play Spanish records.
Yeah, good experience.
Yeah.
So then, a lot of people know this, you joined the Army, you served in Vietnam. What was that decision like?
The same school I was in my 4th year, and frankly, I was getting a little bored. I thought I got out of it all I needed. Turned out I was wrong there. But I decided to join the Army. It was at the buildup of the Vietnam War, and I was under the impression that if you joined, you had a better chance of getting in the area you wanted to get in, and mine was Armed Forces Radio. So immediately they made me a finance clerk and sent me to Vietnam. But I kept applying for transfers, and eventually they moved me to Saigon, and I got to do the morning show. Remember the movie Good Morning Vietnam with Robin Williams? I was in that role. I was not the guy he portrayed. I was 2 or 3 guys later. But we all had to do the same thing, which was yell, Good morning,
Vietnam.
That's right. You know, there were 500,000 American servicemen there, and a lot of local folks who spoke English, and civilians. I mean, a lot of American civilians were there. So yeah, it was the biggest market I ever worked in. And I learned about radio during a war. Very strange.
So then you get back to the U.S. after that, and you moved around to a few different cities before coming to L.A.
I worked in Murray, Kentucky. My career was not exactly thriving, and I put everything in my car. I moved from Murray to Nashville. I drove there, and I had to eat, so I got a job at a Howard Johnson's at the front desk. And down the street was WSM Television, as it was known then. I would go there about once a week and beg for work. One time I went, probably the 12th time I barged in. A half hour before, one of the staff announcers had announced he was retiring, and they said, okay, go down and do a tape for us. And I read something, and they hired me. And I worked in Nashville for 5 years. I did the weather, I did talk shows, I did a lot of stuff, and learned a lot about television there.
The fun never stops at Wheel.
Subscribe here to watch more Spincredible videos.